Hello there.
Hello there, and welcome back to the Sky Guys podcast. We are getting ready for Skeleton Crew. The long-awaited show is finally here. We're going to do our big Skeleton Crew preview podcast today. I'm one of your hosts, Mike Phillips. With us, as always, man who's voice of your narration every single week. Pete Consadori is here. Pete, how are you?
Doing well. Long away is a strong word.
Yep.
Strong couple words. But yeah, we've been waiting. But yeah, excited to see what you guys think. Got a brand new show coming out, which is in itself exciting for Star Wars fans. So yeah, I'm happy to talk to you guys about it.
Yep. Also here with us today, the administrator of the school system on suburban planet Star Wars, Nick Fraietta is here. Nick, how are you?
Doing good. Excited to talk about this show. Excited to get into this show. A little bit less expectations on the show, so I don't know. Seem to be okay with it.
Yep, we'll see what happens here. And Pete, people want to subscribe to some of the Sky Guys. Do so Apple Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn, Spotify, Amazon, all usual suspects. Simply search for the Sky Guys favorite podcast platform. Find episodes there. And Justin, the Suffering Friends, welcome back. We haven't seen you in a little bit. We're you'll be with us here for the Skeleton Crew episodes, but you're on delay, so make sure you subscribe. You want to get the stuff early.
Yeah, it's totally free. Make sure you're subscribed so you can get all that content as quick as possible.
Yep. And Nick, people want to follow us on social media. How can I do that?
Follow at Sky Guys Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, X, or Twitter X, and TikTok.
Yep. Go check out the YouTube page, Mike Phillips on YouTube. We got the video version, we got the props, we got the graphics up to come up here later in the show, all this fun stuff. So, very fun time to be talking Star Wars here as we get a new live action show, second one of the year. Hopefully, it's a better fate than the Acolyte did, but we also have some Star Wars news concerning the next live action show, Nick, which is Andor season 2.
Yeah, so very excited for Andor season 2. We got some news on it. Is that Empire Magazine said that we're going to get Ben Mendelsohn back as Krennic. We've seen images of that since this has come out. We've seen images of him dressed as Krennic. I mean, it looked pretty much the same as it did in Rogue One, but he will be in direct contract with Deidre, who we met in season 1.
Yeah, so Pete, early points for me in the character draft, which infamously went scoreless in season 1.
Yeah, that's great. I'm just gonna lose it again, which is fine. Um, no, yeah, it's pretty cool. I saw the screenshots. It looks, like Nick said, pretty much exactly like Rogue One, but that's good, right? Some continuity, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah, and also of note on the scale on that character draft, Pete, we will be adding to it ahead of this one, so there are more opportunities for us to get points here.
I'm not hopeful for myself. I'm terrible at those.
All right, what else we got, Nick?
We have that the same feature in Empire Magazine also confirms that season 2 of Andor will explore a big backstory on Yavin 4 and how the rebels ended up there, which is interesting. And always been interested in how to know that, so that's definitely interesting.
Yeah, Pete, I feel like this is the kind of thing I think this show can handle pretty well because, like, we all kind of assume, oh, they ended up there, and oh, Mon Mothma's there, and Rebels don't really know why. I think this is a good time to figure out why they're there.
Yeah, no, they definitely can explore this. They can 100% dive deeper into it, and I think it's all content that we want to see. It's not totally out there, and it's not a reach. So, yeah, no, we'll see how it goes.
All right, and last one, Nick. I think you have one more thing. It looks like.
Yeah, this Thursday, the 21st, the first of the DLCs for Outlaws is coming out called The Wild Card, featuring Lando. So if you had bought the season pass, you'll have access to this. I guess you could still buy it. One of the DLCs was included when you bought it. It was an extra mission about ND5 and Jabba the Hutt. So that would you have already done probably, and then this will be the first. And I think there's one more coming in like 6 months or so.
Yeah.
The Hondo one. But this one featuring Lando comes out in 3 days. Three
Yeah,
days from recording, I think.
here's a recording because a little bit of inside baseball for the Sky Guys audience. We're all a little crazy busy on Thanksgiving week here, so we wanted to record this early. Make sure you guys have an episode on the day before Thanksgiving when you're doing all your traveling. So there's the opportunity to buy this by the time this episode's in your ears.
That's right.
Anything else, Nick, or is that all we got?
That's it.
All right, let's get into the Skeleton Crew, which is what we're waiting for here. We've heard almost nothing about the show for a while. This is announced, I think it's Celebration 22, I want to say. There was speculation about it. It's 23, excuse me, that John Watts created this thing. It was sort of back burner for a while. Then we heard around this time last year they were going to delay it a year for Holiday 24. Holiday 24 is here. We got some trailers. We got some stuff here. Pete, I think the good thing about this show for me is that the bar is so low compared to what we had for Acolyte. I feel like if they manage to do just entertain me, I think I'll be happy.
Yeah, the expectation, and Nick's mentioned it before, is super low on this, at least for me. They're not really, I don't want to say they're not marketing it, but like we talked about this earlier this season with the podcast about seeing the trailer, and I was like, no, I didn't even watch it. So, um, yeah, I mean, super low expectations. This will bode well for the show just in general for Star Wars fan because they don't have such high expectations. And it gives them a little more wiggle room, right? We're not going to probably be as critical of the show. We may be surprised and give it a little bit of higher rating than we would have. So things are looking up for Skeleton Crew, even though the anticipation is really not there.
Yeah, Nick, I think also this coming out at the holidays is a good call from the vibe they've gotten from the trailer. It feels like, like you're sitting around at home, like you got your eggnog, you got your Christmas cookies, you got saw some kids have some wild adventures with the gals. I feel like you're gonna have fun.
I agree. And also putting it around this time, I think, is on purpose to somewhat explain the low ratings it's going to get.
Yeah.
Like people were really busy on the holidays, they couldn't watch it, and most people are just. I mean, I am friends with a lot of people who like Star Wars. I think I'm the only one watching the show. I don't
Yeah.
think anyone's gonna watch it.
Yeah. Apart from maybe the guests who we've talked to who said they're gonna watch it. I can't think of
Well,
many.
they're forced to because they have to come on here.
Yeah.
I don't know. I honestly don't know if a lot of those guests would watch it if we wouldn't. I think there's a lot of people out there who didn't know it was coming, so I told them.
Yeah, I think most people didn't even know the show existed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think it's on purpose. They're trying to like hide it and just let it release secretly, come out in the background, and then boom. Next thing we know, it's next year. People start getting hyped up for Andor.
Yep. So I think that's the big expectation here. And obviously, we've had two trailers here. We had the initial trailer, I think back around D23 in August. We had another one come out a few weeks ago here. I think the vibes I've gotten these trailers, Nick, is sort of like, like, oh, kids having an adventure. There's pirates. There's all sorts of wacky shenanigans happening here. It's in the Star Wars space. It's sort of like Goonies meets Star Wars, the vibe I've gotten from these trailers.
I've gotten Stranger Thing vibes
I think that's definitely on
and,
purpose.
and Goonies as well, but I think Goonies is what it's going to end up being. Stranger Things is what they want it to be,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that Goonie thing. But that's my expectation for the show. Honestly, it's going to be a show that is not really targeted for us, marketed for us, and I think we'll enjoy it a little bit. But at the end of the day, we're gonna look back and say it was one of the weaker Star Wars shows.
Yeah, I think Nick's Stranger Things comp is interesting here too, because I think like clearly if this show is going to be more than just a one-off, the kids have to land with us, the kid characters, and this is sort of going to be like, oh, like this is our Stranger Things crew. We want to see these guys grow up in the Star Wars universe. Like otherwise, it's a fun like okay, we had a wild adventure, we're back home, the story's over.
Yeah, I agree. I think if they don't market this or don't plan for this to go longer, this seems like a waste of a show, right? Not to say it's going to be bad, but Stranger Things comparison is good because it's something that we're growing with, and hopefully it doesn't take them 4 years to produce a season like Stranger Things. But you grow with the characters, you've watched the characters kind of develop, and I think that's their game plan. Will it be executed correctly? I don't know. We'd have to wait to see. But it's definitely a great game plan for a struggling Disney Star Wars, for quite some time now.
Yeah, and Nick, I think there is certainly like potential here, like some of these kids, especially the one who looks like the Max Rebo kid character. I feel like he's got the chance to be the meme character of the show.
We'll see. I mean, it's going to be it's going to be very interesting. You made a great point. They need the kid characters need to land. If they don't land, this is going to be, I don't want to say a disaster. My honest opinion is that we're past the point of no return already, and people who are already checked out. So I don't think this could already. I don't think by definition this could be a disaster, but it could bring in a new type of fan base, which I think would be good. It could bring in the people who are not that interested, who just want to see something like Stranger Things, like people in that, I don't know, that audience, perhaps.
Yeah, people like sort of like the Gen Z audience.
Yeah. Now, do I think that's going to happen? I do not.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Like I think
But
almost
I
you make.
like the attempt. It's a good idea to try.
I mean, they've done everything else. Why not try this? Because I mean, like all it takes is like one viral meme to explode, and all of a sudden you get like a bunch of eyes on it, and maybe you get some audience that way.
Yep.
Yeah, it's also interesting to note here, Pete, that this show is sort of tied into the Mandoverse, is occurring around the same time as everything else in the Mandoverse so far, which is all in 9 BBY with the Mando seasons, with Boba Fett, with Ahsoka here. Obviously, we've heard tight-lipped things. I know from the trailers that Vane, the pirate from Mando 3, is showing up here to bother these kids. So, like, how close do you think this is going to end up tying into the Mandoverse? You think it's going to be a fun little side quest? You think it actually might tie deeper in some of these other stories?
I think it can go either way. My gut reaction tells me that Mando's going to show up because why not put him in everything you can because he's your most popular Disney Plus Star Wars character since the conception of Disney Plus. Um, that's my gut, but there's a part of me that also says that they're just doing this to set up, for the Mandoverse movie that's coming out in a few years, where people from this story and however many seasons are out by then are going to show up in the movie for the epic conclusion. So, um, yeah, I think it's just more so to tie everything in. I don't think they're trying to stray away from this time period. I think they tried with the Acolyte, didn't really work. I think a lot of the stuff we're going to see is going to be around this same time, so they can use other properties to help save it, which happened in Book of Boba Fett, couldn't really happen in Acolyte, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, Nick, what do you think about the Mandoverse tie-ins here? Because obviously, I think Jude Law's character of Nod can certainly pop up somewhere else, but I feel like you might get a cameo here or there. I think they could try and make it its own thing, from what I can gather.
The show, you mean, or
Yes, this show.
moving forward? We'll see. I have some ideas on what they do, but we don't know what the show's really like and about. So, I mean, we have the general synopsis, but we don't really know what it's about. Kind of hard to say. I just kind of feel like Pete's talking about the Mando movie, and that's scheduled for, we don't have the exact date, but I think our estimate's like 2028, right?
That's the guess I would assume.
And to me, it's too long. It's too little. It's too late. Honestly, I think that money people have moved on. They don't care anymore, and it's a shame because you waited 9 years to put that movie out. Look at the MCU because it's a great comp. The first Iron Man started it all in '08. By 2012, they had their team up movie. It was only 4 years.
Yeah.
And really, if you think about it, after Iron Man, the other movie didn't come out until Iron Man 2, which was 2010. So in 2 years, you had all those movies come out. Iron Man 2 and Captain America and Thor and all that. And this, it's like Mando 1 was 2019, and we're not going to get the movie where they team up together until 2028. It's just like people have moved on. They don't really care anymore. I
Yeah,
think people's interest in Star Wars now is, and I see it all the time, everything I read. Everything I read is the same thing. It's more Andor and give us another movie like Rogue One. That's all I see.
yeah.
And I'm not saying people aren't interested in Mandalorian. I just don't think they care anymore. Like there was a good show, they liked it, it was over, and Mando 3 kind of killed it for them. So I don't think it's, unfortunately, I think this whole Mando verse is a little too late.
Yeah, Pete, I think this kind of ties into our discussion last week after we got the report about the Ray movie being pushed off its date and the whole thing from the Hollywood Reporter about Ray being like a tug of war in 5 different projects, and they're all sort of doing their own things parallel with each other. Like, there's no clear blueprint of like what's going to be happening with the Star Wars property, and we thought Filoni was going to do that, but it seems like it's still Kathleen Kennedy doing it. Filoni's promotion was a job title basically for the TV side.
Yeah, I think Filoni was handed an impossible situation where they had this all over the place roadmap for Disney had that for a lot of properties, right? They had it for Marvel, they had it for Disney. The Disney ones, just nothing was landing, right? Marvel was struggling too, but at least there was a couple movies here and there that were landing, Guardians 3, Spider-Man, Deadpool. There was a couple movies that were kind of saving the timeline a little bit, but pretty much all the Star Wars shows that were coming out were, I don't want to say major flops, but they were just not successful, right? They were trying, they were failing, and then finally, by this time, where we're talking day to record, everything is pretty much scrapped. Let's just start from scratch and let's kind of move forward. And I think that we haven't been able to see Dave Filoni actually organize anything yet because we're still working with projects that were slated or filmed or were going to happen because they were paid for and budgeted for. So I think Filoni's in this kind of weird situation where we're not really able to see him move forward with his direction, and you have, other showrunners and other people that were involved still involved because those projects haven't gone away yet.
Yeah, let's get back. If you want that more discussion, obviously go back to last week. We talked about this, but let's look
Just a
at,
quick question before we move on.
yeah.
Is it because they're TV shows and not movies that this is just dragging on and taking forever? Does it take that much longer to film a show? I'm assuming the answer is yes, because it's so much longer. And if you add the time up, like runtime, right? Because like think about all the movies that came out of the MCU between in the first 9 years. So between 2008 and 2017 versus what we're gonna get in 2019 versus 2028. It's like so much less, and it's because it's a show, right?
Yeah, I think part of it was, as I mentioned last week, part of it was just poor planning on Disney's part with the Star Wars properties, where they sort of had no idea how they wanted to get back in the movies after nine flopped. And then you have sort of obviously the situation with TV takes longer to produce a show, and then so successfully get another season of the show, and then you have actor availability when it got the Pedro Pascal blow up. So it's a lot of factors.
Yeah, it's a shame because I was very excited for it, and I feel like I still am excited for it, but the amount of people that don't even know it exists. People are like, oh, the Mandoverse movie, that is the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, right? Like they don't even know they're separate things. It's not done. They haven't done well. They could hype it up more. They could be. I feel like they need to get on stage. They're afraid. They should need to get on stage and say what is going to happen, and they're afraid to do it because they know that these release dates are all going to change because they can't get any seats in the theater because of what they did 10 years ago, or I guess 8 years ago at this point, or whatever it was. They can't get anyone to sit in the theater, so they're afraid to announce anything because they're afraid of canceling it and getting berated.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a whole problem, which we have a deeper episode planned after Skeleton Crew about the direction Star Wars should take here, which, Nick, I think that's a great conversation when we get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of this show, before we get to the character, a couple of things I'll note here. The cast for this show, obviously, got some big names. Jude Law is the lead character. He's described as a Force user, so not a Jedi. I guess technically, that's a note here. Carrie Combs was an Academy Award nominee a couple of years ago. She is one of the character's moms here. Jaleel White, P, if you're familiar with the Urkel back in the day, like Jaleel White's playing a pirate in the show, and you've seen some of the stills. He's got like really cool cybernetic like eye thing, which is pretty interesting to see what they do with some of these like comedic pirate roles.
Yeah, no, the casting from what I've seen looks good. I mean, I'm not opposed to it. And again, it's also how the characters are. I mean, I think the casting on paper, you can have superstar casting and terrible writing, and you're going to have an issue. So, I mean, as we always say, we'll see how it looks, but the casting looks great.
All right, and Nick, I have the director list. Actually, came out today for the episodes. You wanted to see that before we get into the draft.
What I do?
All right, came from Star Wars Holocron. Shared this on X/Twitter here. So this is directors for each episode of Skeleton Crew.
Oh, I like that. You got what they did too. That's great.
Yeah, this is Star Wars Holocron. Credit to them for this. John Watts, who's the showrunner, did the first episode and the last episode, so the premiere and the finale. David Lowery, who directed the movie The Green Knight, did episodes 2 and 3. The Daniels, who are the directors of Everything Everywhere All at Once, which won the Academy Award for Best Picture in 2023, they got episode 4. The director of the Thunderbolts, upcoming movie from Marvel, Jake Schreier, got episode 5. Bryce Dallas Howard, who we know from all of her Mando-verse work, is episode 6. And Lee Isaac Chung, who I believe has popped up in, I think, Mando 3 did an episode, and he also directed Twisters this summer. So those are your directors here. Pete, anything pop out from this list to you?
Um, I, Not really, and not because it's anything against the directors. I just I always didn't like the multiple director format. I
Yeah.
always didn't like it. And I understand there's parts to it. I understand it works in some shows. I just feel like there's no unifying, especially with the showrunners of Disney Plus Star Wars. There's no unifying theme. There's a lot of back and forth, and I just feel like it makes really good episodes and really bad episodes instead of just having a uniform good show, bad show, whatever. So nothing stands out. I'm interested to see what each person's take on Skeleton Crew is. But it's still not something, it's still not a format that I'm kind of backing. I think we need some sort of consistency, at least from the direction aspect of it.
Yeah, Nick. Also, the ones that jump out to me is obviously, I mean, I think Lee Isaac Chung, he also did the Mando episode in season three. He did the one where I think was Pershing's episode. He did that. So here to see what he does in this show. And we also have here, I feel like the Daniels coming off the Academy Award, going to Skeleton Crew as one of their next projects is an interesting choice.
Yeah, we'll see.
And
We'll see.
have either of you seen that movie yet?
No.
The stuff they do in that movie is very wild. So I'm very excited to see them get their hands on a Star Wars show.
Hmm.
All right, so let's go ahead now. You guys ready for the character draft?
Sure.
All right, so
I don't know how many pick three people, but we'll try.
we will try. This might be interesting seeing where we go with some of these picks. So it's just the general rule here. They have to, this is a draft of characters who are not in the main cast of the show, who we think could appear in the show. This is obviously something we've done here. Nick's had success. I think he's won the last three shows we've done. I want to say, is that correct, Nick?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I believe you won the last three shows we've done.
Oh, I think so, yeah.
Because you won Acolyte, I know you won Ahsoka, and I believe you won Mando 3.
Yes. I won Accolade as well.
Yeah, yeah. So I think those are the last three live action
Oh,
shows.
you said that. Okay.
Yeah, so I think that's what's going on here. And as the winner of this draft, the rules basically are we have to pick a character here who is not in the cast. So Vane from Mando 3 does not count. We cannot pick Vane. Everybody else is on the board in the entire Star Wars extended universe. So Nick, I'll give you the choice here. How do you want to set the draft order? It's going to be a snake draft starting with pick one.
I thought we had decided that whoever comes in first gets the prize, whoever comes in last pays for the prize, whoever comes in second sets the order.
So in that case, it would be Pete off of
That is what I thought we had said.
all right, I'm fine with that situation here because I paid for the Funko Pop after I was last place in the Acolyte draft. Pete was in the middle, so Pete, you could set the order if you would like.
Uh, oh boy. It's not gonna really matter. Let's go Mike first. I'll go second, and then Nick will have the turn at third.
All right, so Pete puts himself in the middle here. I'm up first. I will take the obvious one just to, get it off the board here. If Hondo Onaka is not in this show, he will never be in anything live action ever because this is the perfect spot to bring him into existence in the live action front, Nick.
I'm with you. I hope we get him.
Pete, I think we would be the most excited on this podcast if Hondo shows up and runs into these kids.
No, I would agree. I think that's what I'm watching the show for, honestly. Not
Yeah.
really the content of it, just to see if Hondo shows up.
Yeah. So Hondo, first pick in the draft. Pete, where are you going with pick number two?
I'm gonna go with the obvious as well. It's in the Mando verse. I'm gonna say Mando shows up, just because I have zero knowledge of what else could happen. So we're gonna go with Mando because I feel like if they can slot him into anything, they'll do it. So
Yeah, Nick, that would also make sense. All you have to do is get Pedro Pascal to do some voice work for a day and have one of the stunt guys, the suit guys show up and you're there.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. That's a good way to connect it to let people know it's part of the universe.
He's all I have to do is like run into him on a mission. He's like, hey, kid, see you later.
Right.
Yeah. All right, Nick, you get the first of two picks now. Where are you going?
I'll take Carson Teva. He's in everything. I'm expecting to see him again. And I'll take Zeb. He seems to be showing up a lot recently. So I want to see him here as well.
Yeah, Carson Teva, Pete feels like this is an obvious one. Like he's sort of like if you remember the Marvel Netflix shows, he's the Claire Temple of the Star Wars Mandoverse shows where he shows up in everything. And Zeb is CGI, and we know he's in the Mando movie, so like easy one, just get Steve Bloom to show up for a day and do some voice work.
yeah, they're good picks.
All right, Pete, you're up now for your second pick.
This is something that hopefully makes sense. Nothing goes better with something that's more family oriented than droids. So I'm gonna go with Chopper.
Oh, you're bringing in the Chopper.
Gonna bring in the Chopper. Not necessarily think he's gonna have a kill count, but I feel like He may make an appearance.
Nick, Chopper would be a lot of fun in this show.
A Chopper would be fun in any show.
Yeah. I mean, imagine he's running into these kids and he's trying to teach them like war crimes.
Oh, sorry, I was typing and I stopped. I'll continue.
Yeah. Yeah, Chopper teaching children war crimes is, I think, a high standard for our holiday wholesome Disney content.
We'll see what happens in this show with in regards to Chop Man.
Yeah, in regards to King Chop. So I'm up now. I'll do my next pick here. I'm gonna go with a deep pull, a pirate we have not seen in a long time, but I think we could get her back. I think Emphas Nest here from Solo.
I like that character, and I hope we see that character again. And we can do a whole podcast on how Solo was thrown under the bus, and this would have been a great sequel
Yeah.
featuring them, but not today.
Yeah, I feel like that's the first thing I thought of. Here was like, we'll find a random pirate we haven't seen, and we're sure gonna run into some menacing pirates here. I feel like she could be the good guy pirate that these kids run into.
That would be interesting.
All right, so I have my last one here. I'm gonna do another Mandoverse connection, and I feel like this is sort of in the same like, who could they run into on the fringe of the Mandoverse? So we can go point at the screen and do the jingle keys, like, ooh, that guy, like, or that girl, like. I'm gonna take Mayfield. I think this is a prime Bill Burr comes back spot where the kids run into him.
I hope so. I love Bill Burr.
Yeah. I would love to get Bill Burr back. And I feel like since he kind of left him open-ended in the Mando season 2 when he goes off on his own thing, like could be nice if he's like out doing some stuff and the kids find him.
Not a big pick.
All right, Pete, you got one pick left.
All right, so this one's probably a very deep, 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 deep dive that probably won't happen, but I'm just gonna stick with a Rebels theme. I'm gonna say Jason Syndulla,
Okay.
just because of the age of the character, and I feel like it may fit in well.
Yeah, Nick, what do you think about that one?
I mean, we have no idea, but the age of the character fits in properly, so I think it's a good pick.
Yeah,
Well,
only know they could be trying to communicate and he's on the phone on the ghost and then like he gets told to hang up by his mom.
so I'm pretty much my last pick here in the draft, gonna just ensure that Pete doesn't win, and it's not personal. But if Mando shows up, he's not gonna be alone. So I'll take Grogu, and any points you get for Mando, I'm gonna get for Grogu.
All right, so Grogu rounds out the collection here, and this would
Maybe
be
Grogu fits in. He's a kid too. I don't know why none of us thought of that.
yeah, he is a child. We'll see if his dad shows up with him.
I can't see either of them showing up alone. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So to reset the board here after the character draft, my team is Hondo, Enfys Nest from Solo, and Mayfeld. Pete is taking Mando himself, Chopper and Jason Syndulla. Nick has Carson Teva, Zeb, and Grogu. So I will throw out a couple more honorable mentions I had on the board. But I think is Pete. I think C3PO and R2D2 were both on my board.
Fair.
I
Ahsoka on mine.
yeah.
Ahsoka's been in every Mandoverse show.
Yes, she had. Peli Motto
She's
was
been in
also
Mando.
on.
She's been in Pelimato. No, not allowed.
I felt like the vibes of this show felt like I could see the kids running into her on Tatooine.
Mm.
And a deep pull from Rebels here in terms of pirates as Morgian.
I had one more on my list. I thought that it would be interesting, or really two more, but like Ezra and or Thrawn, someone who could not be in a way that they interact with the kids at all, but perhaps be in like a post-credit scene or something to tie it to the larger universe. Because Thrawn seems to be what's tying everything together here, or is supposed to tie everything together in the future. So maybe there's a reason that Jude Law's character has something against Thrawn, and that's why they gotta get involved. So I thought maybe Thrawn, and then Ezra also just for the same reason, just to get everyone involved.
PJ, anybody else you were considering?
I didn't have a list. It was too hard for me. I could have done all of those, but I think I was being a little too like narrow sighted on it. So I kind of had to go with the flow. But no,
Maybe
you said
Bo-Katan,
everything. Bo-Katan could be a possibility.
maybe
Um,
Sasha Banks, or we can't call her that anymore because that's not her name.
Yeah, I think yeah, I could see the lower level Mandalorians popping in, sort of like I feel like when the reason why I sort of didn't go them down the Mando well, I feel like he might be too big time for what this show is trying to do.
We'll see. Like you mentioned, though, you just need Pedro Pascal to come in and do 5 minutes worth of voice work, and you did it.
Yeah. And you get one of the stunt guys like Brendan Wayne or whoever
Yeah,
the guy is to
right.
show up.
Exactly.
All right, so let's get into also we do our trackers for every show here. So got a couple here in mind. So obviously Hondo trackers a must.
Oh, of course, of course.
Planets,
Yep, of
classic lines, I feel like is a good one to pull here.
course.
Cameos,
Yep.
and I think pirates, just the sheer number of different pirates they run into over the course of this show.
I want to do kids,
Children.
like named though. Like you can't just have random kids running around. Like named children.
So we gotta do name pirates and name kids.
Yeah.
I think those are good. I'm trying to think. I also feel like Pete, this show is gonna be. I feel like there's got to be meme moments in this show. I think if we can reserve the right that we see a meme explode on social media from the show, we have to count it in this track in the
Oh,
track.
I would not count on that one.
Yeah, that one might be tough.
I
I
would not count on getting anything to blow up on this show.
well, I think again, I think the hope I have with that one is that like the Max Rebo looking kid feel like he's gonna blow up, do something. It's gonna blow up on social media.
Let's see.
I'm putting it on the list. We don't have to use it, but like it is there. And if we see anything else emerge during this show, I think we can add it as we go.
Sounds good to me.
All right. So I think we're all set for premiere. Like ordinarily this would be where we do predictions of what we're gonna happen here, but considering we don't really know what the show is gonna be, I think that's a very hard ask.
I agree. I think that's gonna be too tough.
But Nick, next week, 2 episode premiere on December 3rd. We got 2 episodes worth of Skeleton Crew to kick off our holiday season here. And as a note, the recap episode is going to drop on Thursday. We need some time to watch both of those.
Double episode premieres. I forgot about that. I can't stand it. But all right.
Yeah. So Thursday for the
Yeah, I like to watch one and focus on one. I hate this, but whatever. All right.
well, based on our timing of record, you could do one on Tuesday and one on Wednesday and be ready for both on Thursday.
Good point.
All right. So I think that's it for us this week. I want to thank you guys for coming on here. Pete, people want to follow you on social media. I'm going to do that.
At Consi29 on Twitter, CONSY29, AP Teller 308, created the background I'm using on Reddit. Make sure you check them out.
All right, Nick, one more time. People want to follow us on social media. I'm going to do that.
At Sky Guys Podcast on Instagram, Twitter X, and TikTok.
You can also follow me on social media, mphillips331. It's MPHILIPS 331. This is over the Just and the Suffering podcast. We are getting ready for Thanksgiving football, our Week 12 NFL picks, plus some hot stove talk here. Nick, future prediction here. Is Juan Soto picked a team by the time this episode comes out?
No, 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 no.
You,
Long time. Long time.
my hot take is he has got to be on a team by the time this episode comes out.
All right, we'll see. I don't think he's gonna be on the team until the new year.
Yeah, I think this is one where I think is moving very fast. I feel like we're going to have resolution with before Thanksgiving.
We will see. He's met with everybody. It just came out that he's meeting with the Dodgers now, so they'll give him $1 salary with 8 billion deferred.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see what happens there. So we'll keep an eye on that. But we'll be back next week to recap the premiere of Skeleton Crew. But until then, may the force be with you.